Just a few days ago, another major mass shooting occurred in this country. We haven't had one of those in a while, presumably because the pandemic made people not want to go into public spaces as much as they did prior to the pandemic, but it seems like now we're back to business as usual in this country when it comes to mass shootings. I am not going to talk about this particular mass shooting because I kind of just want to make this video applicable to any mass shooting that happens from here on out. The reason I've always shied away from talking about mass shootings on this channel is because, quite simply, I have nothing to add. Unless there's a particular mass shooting that has a certain aspect to it that I really want to discuss in a video, I'm not going to talk about it because it seems like this country really doesn't seem very interested in talking about why mass shootings happen in the first place. We always obfuscate ourselves from the real problem. We always distract ourselves by talking about stricter gun laws or talking about things that have absolutely nothing to do with mass shootings, but people just want to, again, distract themselves from the actual problem and blame it on things like video games or violent movies or anything else, violent TV shows, things that have been proven to hell and back not to have an influence on people, but are still used as a scapegoat regardless. And then you have the extreme fringe and unhinged conspiracy theories like this mass shooting was just a Democrat hoax in an effort to take our guns away, which you've said the same exact thing with Sandy Hook and all of these other mass shootings throughout the years, and nothing has happened to your precious gun collection. Your guns are still in your possession. When the fuck is it actually going to happen? And when the fuck is it not going to be just stupid fear-mongering from you people because you jack off to your gun collection that you love oh so much and weep yourself to sleep at night over the thought of losing said gun collection, which again, you are not going to lose because nothing is going to happen to them because these shootings are not staged. Every time a mass shooting occurs in this country, we think about the actual tragedy for like a day at best, and then we go straight into the pointless conversations and arguments that lead us to nothing. No problem solved whatsoever. It's just a pointless back and forth that brings us absolutely nothing. And then that all dies down until the next big mass shooting happens, and then it's like clockwork. The exact same fucking thing happens. We have the same pointless back and forths and pointless arguments that bring us nothing, and then we forget about it again until once again, the next big mass shooting happens. And I'm so sick of this stupid, pointless, endless cycle. We tend not to think about the sheer amount of people who have untreated mental illness because perhaps they can't afford adequate health care, and maybe they turn to other, more harmful avenues like substance abuse that worsens their mental illness. We think of these people as the people who are at the lower end of society, the people we shouldn't think about because they're just useless druggies or just crazy people we shouldn't pay any mind to, but these are the people who are the most prone to causing violence. Simply shaming them and banishing them from quote-unquote civilized society does fuck all to help the problem. In fact, it makes it even worse because just throwing these people behind bars solves absolutely nothing. Treating these people can lead to better results and perhaps a decrease in violent crimes and mass shootings. If we make these people feel like outcasts, what's stopping them from continuing their spiral downward, and what's stopping them from eventually justifying in their heads gunning down a bunch of people in a public space? Society supposedly hates them, right? So it's only fair that they seek retribution against society, at least in their own warped view. The internet loves to meme about this sort of thing all the time. We live in a society, Joker memes, memes about the quiet kid at the back of the class, but in reality, there's a scary amount of people who think this way, because perhaps they were pushed to a certain extent where these sorts of thoughts are normal to them, and or they have mental illness that went untreated. You see, doing nothing but pointing and laughing at these kind of people does absolutely nothing to solve the problem. In fact, it worsens the issue, because if you mess with the wrong person, these sorts of thoughts are eventually going to be normalized in their heads, and perhaps it can push them to eventually carrying out a horrific act like shooting up a school or any other public area where people gather in mass. I wish that mental illness and addiction and other issues of the sort weren't attributes that supposedly make a person worthy of being looked down upon. And the more we neglect these sorts of issues, the more we're going to see tragedies like what occurred the other day happen. And I already know the rebuttals. Some people are going to say, well, some people are just untreatable. Look at some of the worst prisons in the world. Do you mean to tell me that a lot of the people in places like those can actually be treated? And yes, absolutely, some people cannot be treated. Doesn't mean we shouldn't make the effort, and doesn't mean that all of these people who go into this category are lost causes. Mentality like that is also part of the problem. A mentality where you see a person with mental illness and say, ah, they're too crazy, they're a lost cause, let's just give up on them, there's no point in treating them, and then they end up carrying out a horrific tragedy, like, again, a school shooting or shooting up any area where people gather in mass. You never know what giving up on a person can result in. And with all that said, there's my 2 cents on mass shootings and what I think we should do in response to mass shootings. I know no one was really clamoring for this, no one was really asking for my solution to mass shootings, but there you go regardless. In case another one happens, which will surely happen, and someone asks for my 2 cents, I'll just link them to this video. Unless, of course, said mass shooting has a certain aspect to it that I really want to hone in on and discuss, but aside from that, I really have no drive in continually talking about every mass shooting that happens because, again, it's the same song and dance every time. We like to distract ourselves from the actual issue and distract ourselves from the tragedy itself by talking about things that either have nothing to do with the tragedy itself and why mass shootings happen, or come about with half-assed solutions that actually solve absolutely nothing. But anyways, that's all I have to say. Bye-bye.